Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep bringing comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
Maybe the best phone call, definitely of the year, maybe forever.
Wow, that's high praise.
Phone rings. Challengers, yeah, do you guys worship Satan? I immediately think it's a joke.
Why wouldn't you?
Sometimes. It depends on what he's offering us. Oh, yeah, I saw that thing in the back of your store, so I figured you did. Think to myself for a minute. Oh, you mean the King Diamond action figure. Now, for those listening, the King Diamond action figure from Super 7 that came out this week is part of their Ultimates line. And just like all of the New Japan figures, it comes in a cardboard box that has a clear panel in the front, but also a cardboard slipcase that goes over the top that completely obscures the figure. The New Japan figures had the New Japan logo dead center in the front.
Yep.
The King Diamond figure has a pentagram and a goat's head. And on the back of the figure has an upside-down cross. It does not, anywhere that's visible, say King Diamond. You have to lift the slipcase, the cardboard sleeve, to be able to see the King Diamond logo.
It's a little bit overproduced.
So, that's a King Diamond action figure. King Diamond? Yeah, he's a heavy metal musician. Gene Simmons once sued him for having similar makeup to his from Kiss. Oh, I never heard of him. Maybe you should listen to him. It'll change your life. Well, you worship Satan, so we're never going to shop there again. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Click.
Don't make me choose between your money and Satan. Don't do that. That's not fair.
I mean, that's a new one on me, man.
That's really good.
It's good to know. I want to write that down. Hold on. I think "Don't Make Me Choose Between Your Money and Satan" is a great title.
Thank you.
It may be a little bit long, though.
Okay.
Let me try it, though. Phil.
Yeah, that is pretty insane. We've been accused of a lot of things over the years, but someone accusing us of being Satan worshippers and therefore not fit for their patronage is new to me. It's definitely a thing that I've never been accused of.
And here's the weirdest part of that.
Also, I'm way more of a nihilist. Like, I don't believe in anything.
Right, but here's the thing. Gina wasn't even working.
Yeah, it's true.
If you listened to her music and saw some of her t-shirts, you'd think, okay, devil worshiper.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I mean, she doesn't play that stuff in the store.
I don't want to profile either.
Sure,
I mean,
of course,
sure.
of course.
I don't know what her belief system is. I've never really asked.
Yeah.
It's none of my business.
The irony is I ordered the King Diamond figures, plural, for two people who I mean, personally, I don't like King Diamond.
Okay.
Or Merciful Fate, that is his band.
Okay.
I've never known the difference between the two, his solo, his whatever. I believe a very important figure in the King Diamond lore is Abigail. But anyway, never been a fan of the music so much, although I do have one King Diamond song in my Christmas playlist because it is a King Diamond Christmas song.
Like it's an original song King Diamond did for Christmas? Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I don't know if it was like, a staple or whatever that he just re-recorded.
Never been a real fan of the music, though.
Okay.
But I ordered the figure specifically for two people I thought we could get to buy it, and it turns out they both ordered theirs online.
Sure.
The same way that some of our employees order figures online, and then I'm like, oh, this is in previews. I'll buy this Kurt Russell Thing figure to give to Lizzie and Gina for Christmas, and they already have them. They got them this week. Mm-hmm. So the store will eventually get two of those that we'll just put on the rack.
Okay.
So normally a King Diamond action figure is not something we would stock for the store, but I'm like, I can sell that.
Sure.
Well,
probably not to that person.
Not to that person, because we worship Satan.
I think at the time that happened and you had that phone call and you related to me, I think I corrected it that we're more like Satan aficionados.
Yeah,
Like worship is kind of a lot.
yeah. I mean, we're fans.
Yeah, I mean, does good work. Just a matter of like, worship it's a lot. That's a commitment. I don't feel like committing.
I started to tell Jane about the phone call, and she goes, "Oh, let me guess, the Surtur figure." Because we've got...
Weirdly, no.
Which, by the way, right next to King Diamond, so maybe.
Yeah, also like an actual, like, devil who reigns in hell. So,
yeah.
I mean, way more than King Diamond is.
Yeah.
I guess maybe we should package the King Diamond with the Surtur figure as a 2-pack.
I think so.
Of like...
That's fine.
You can't just have, like, the devil with no one to worship him. You can't just have King Diamond with nothing to worship. Here you go. There's your diorama. Perfect for Christmas. I don't know. A lot of people do a nativity. You could go a different way. I don't know.
It's a type of nativity, maybe. So now the King Diamond figures are out of their cases and just resting on top of them.
I did see that. That was a very good idea.
Yeah. Because otherwise...
I had put them out originally and I was just like, I didn't look all the way around them, so I figured people would figure it out or know, or I don't know King Diamond enough to know if that's like, putting the bat symbol on the front of a Batman figure. I don't know if that was just like, the symbol was like, oh, that's definitely King Diamond.
Sure.
I don't know. So yeah, when you open them up, it's like, oh, that makes more sense.
Sorry, I'm grimacing at an email we just got where somebody responded to a prior email with a very nondescript, "You're not giving me the answer I asked you in the email of which you asked me a thing." So I answered their question. They did not answer mine.
Okay.
So I just assume it's a no then.
Okay.
I'm being cryptic, but it's just because it's a customer email. We don't have to.
Sure. Which is weird because I was just looking at one and it was not. Oh yeah. No, I know the one you mean. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
I figured you'd get there, Dal.
Yeah. Also,
there.
I mean, I definitely feel like the follow up you gave is the answer is a no for a lot of reasons, but certainly because they did not explicitly say yes.
Sure. I wanted to jump right in with that phone call because it was kind of the highlight of the week.
I can imagine.
I mean, a highlight of the week. But what I should have started with...
It's a highlight of the year is what I'm hearing, or potentially all-time phone conversations.
Phone call, yeah. Yeah, not a highlight, phone call. But how I really wanted to start the podcast was, welcome back.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry you have to come back.
What do you mean back?
You were gone.
No, we didn't record last week.
That is correct, we did not.
Okay.
So welcome back to recording.
Yeah.
That's all.
How was your week off?
Technically, I had a week off, yes.
Yeah. A week, like... I don't want to keep going around in circles. We didn't record last week, so,
but one of us recorded...
We both had the week off.
Sure, because I recorded twice the week before.
What? You monster.
I know you begrudgingly are doing this, even though
I am.
You'd be more than happy to have Molly Jane take your spot.
I was. A couple people you had relayed to me had done joke comments about, like, Molly Jane should take over, and I went, sure, great.
You said that even in the beginning.
Whether she likes it or not.
When you and I were talking to Molly Jane before all of this, well, I mean, about this, but long before she came on.
Is it weird doing a podcast where now we say Molly Jane's name instead of just cryptically referring to her as a pair of hands that could be helping us out in the future?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think people got that point when we were talking about lessening our burden. That was Molly Jane.
Yeah, that was Molly Jane.
Yeah. So... we never mentioned names specifically because A, she was working for somebody else,
yeah.
B, it wasn't official.
Yeah.
C, there was always a chance it could go south.
Yeah, I mean, not south so much as like...
It has not happened, is what I mean.
It could fall through, and that was the thing that we wouldn't have, held it against her in any way. Like, that was something that, when you're offering someone a job and you're asking them, in doing so, to leave their current position, like... even a yes could potentially become like, well, I got a better offer or whatever. And
right.
It's like, fine, I get it.
And we expected that and built that into our expectations, not to use same versions of this, similar versions of the same words.
Sure.
But we really had that as a possibility.
Yeah.
So I think Challengers as an entity is getting way better at plan Bs or fallbacks.
Just operational security. We have had instances in the last 13 years where we've gotten very excited about something and sort of jumped the gun on announcing it.
Like
and
Satan?
Then, I'm sorry?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. And then kind of had to walk it back or had a little bit of egg on our face or just had a reaction to it that we were maybe not anticipating and that sort of colored our experience with it. So I think this time we wanted to make sure that when we announced it, it was something that was definitely going to happen. And certainly, like, we wanted the announcement to the public to come after we had already announced it to the people who are already within the organization. Like, we wanted it to be something where they didn't have to find out from a podcast or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. But, there's a level of managing our expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. Or not our expectations, again, so much as just, like, we get really excited and we let ourselves kind of get ahead of things. And so we wanted to make sure that let's sit on this for a little while and make sure that things are locked in before we start telling people things.
Yeah, it's hard to not get excited for things.
Absolutely.
But, things fall through, so...
Yeah, it's happened before.
Anyway, this was the first full week of Molly Jane Challenger as the manager of the store. Mm-hmm. How'd it go? I'm specifically asking you because you worked with her for...
5 days.
5 days, yeah.
5 out of 5 days.
To my 2.
As it turned out.
Yeah.
More than I was anticipating this week, but that's what happened. I think it went really well. I was very happy with how much she either like reflexively remembered from when she used to work at Challengers. Like, our point of sale, unfortunately, has not really evolved too much since she was working at Challengers. So a lot of things, I think even if she didn't remember them, sort of came back to her pretty quickly as far as like how the POS works and how subscriptions work and all that sort of stuff. And also, she had been doing a version of this job for somebody else for a number of years. So, while we maybe go over specific things about how we would do things, or I would show her like 25% of how I would do a job, and then she could decide, does she want to do it that way? Does she have a way that's better?
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't as much like ground zero, here's how a comic shop works as we've had to do in training before. This was mostly just, here's specific like edge cases that you need to know about or things you need to be aware of, and sort of how things are all fitting together based on all of the things you need to do for a day and a week and a year and all that stuff. But she picked it up really well, and I wanted to make sure that for me, my temper can be an issue, and I never want it to be a thing where I was, for one reason or another, getting frustrated. So I tried to be very generous.
Well, let me jump in and just qualify that. When you say your temper can be an issue, you get mad at situations, not people.
Sure.
You get mad at a program not working or basically mechanical things, or your heart.
Or sometimes, I don't have a heart. Or sometimes too many things are happening at once and it becomes just like a thing of like, I need space to kind of structure how these things are going to get resolved, and I can't get that space. And until I can get that space, things are not going to get resolved, and I'm going to get very frustrated. Essentially needing a timeout, and I can't get it, and I sort of lose it.
It's akin to getting Diamond, PRH, Southern Hobby, Lunar, and the T-shirts all at the same time.
For example. Is that what happened
today? From different delivery people, too.
Right. Yeah.
But yes, that's what happened today, but also B, you can only work on one thing at a time, so it's just managing the tasks.
And that's the thing. It's just, like, there is a system where, like, okay, there's a hierarchy of what needs to get done first, and what is the easiest thing to achieve. And also, if you have another person working with you, how do you delegate those things to make sure that stuff happens? And the problem I'll have psychologically sometimes is that I need to, if I knew that in advance, if someone said, this is the stuff that needs to get done today, I could have a few minutes of like, okay, well, here's how we're going to approach things, and here's how that's going to get done in the most economical and expedient way possible. But when you're in the middle of one thing, and then essentially someone comes in and says, okay, here are 5 things, which one do I do first? You're like, wait, what? And then it's getting worse as you're not answering, and it's like, but I can't process it and deal with it at the same time.
see what these 5 things are, and then decide.
Yeah, so that's my own problem. And like that was the thing I want to be aware of this week. And thankfully, I don't think it ever came up. I mean, there's definitely some stress at the end of the day Monday when the first PRH Marvel delivery showed up at like 3:30.
Which, don't get into detail that. That's coming later.
I see it. But that's the thing that we knew it was coming in on Monday, and the hope was like, okay, well, this is the first time we're dealing with this, so it coming in at like noon or 1 o'clock would be great. Instead, it's like an hour and a half before we leave, in the midst of a UPS order that includes other things that need to get checked in and put out, and it's like, Jesus Christ. So that last hour and a half became incredibly stressful for me. But luckily, Molly Jane was able to be there and be someone who I could, offload some of that stuff to.
Yeah, imagine if she hadn't started yet and you got all that stuff.
Oh, it would have been bad. I just would have stayed late, probably would have been like the compromise of like, I guess I'm getting out at 7 instead of 5. But luckily everything worked out for the week. Hopefully she had a decent time of it. I was very grateful for her presence and her ability to pick up stuff. And like, there's a thing that we're going to get into on a longer timeline with Molly Jane, where it's like getting more feedback from her about what we're doing. But already this week she was very helpful with like some suggestions on things, or just asking the right questions where it's like, I don't know, maybe we should investigate that. That's a good point.
Which, to be fair, is a thing that we will always consider when someone we work with has a suggestion or a question, or sometimes, why do you do it this way? The answer is, because we've been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah.
This is the best way.
Yeah.
But sometimes elaborating as to why it's the best way not only helps them understand it, but helps you realize that you've tried every other aspect or whatever.
Yeah.
Or at the same time, maybe as you're explaining why you do it, you think, oh, maybe there's a different way.
Yeah, sometimes it's just, like the momentum of doing it. Like, you're just so used to doing it that it's like, fine. Like, the inertia of the process becomes like self-fulfilling.
That's why people always used to buy Uncanny X-Men, because they always bought it.
Yeah, pretty much. Batman. I mean, how many people do you know who get Amazing Spider-Man because they've gotten Amazing Spider-Man since they were a kid? And they're never going to not get Amazing Spider-Man.
My hand is up.
No matter how much they
My
dislike
hand is
it.
up. My hand is up so high right now.
It's so high. But yeah, like, she was already, valuable in, suggesting certain things or noticing certain things or pushing back on things, but not in like, a combative way, but just this is something that I just assumed you guys were doing, or this is what we did at the store I used to work at. And it's like, okay, well, maybe we can give that a try. Like,
and you're like, but you used to work here. What the?
Yeah. So, while we want that from everybody, specifically with Molly Jane, when we were, having a dinner with her to sort of talk about the prospect of her coming over to Challengers, that was the thing we were very upfront with, was like, that's our expectation is, not just like, it would be nice if you did this, but like, we want you to be doing this. Like, if you have an idea, if you have a concern, we want to hear about it. Like, we want, if you and I, Patrick, have been doing something for a while, we want someone at her level who has experience in the industry to come in and say, okay, well, like you were saying, explain to me why that is, and if that doesn't make sense, then I'm going to say that I don't think it makes sense. Like, that's part of the process.
Specifically people that have been in the industry. When you're explaining to people who have never worked in a comic store, they're very quick to offer suggestions, but their suggestions are, they're seeing this for the first time, so why did you do this? Because that's the first thing they thought of, and it's like, we tried that 15 years ago.
Yeah, every customer can tell you how to avoid delinquent club members.
Yeah,
every single customer is like, oh, just do this. Like, that's thankfully a thing that Molly Jane did not bring up, because she knows that it's not a solvable problem. It's not a problem that any store has a perfect solution to that has no unforeseen consequences. So yeah. But yeah, it was good. I think it was a good week. I hope it was a good week for her. I certainly appreciated it. And hopefully she will continue to improve as the weeks go on.
We got today somebody who had called and talked to Molly Jane yesterday.
Okay.
And then they called and got Gina today.
Uh-huh.
And then they came in and got me.
Uh-huh.
And basically it was someone, and this isn't even on the whiteboard.
Oh, no.
It was a grandma who wanted to buy comics for their grandkids. But they wanted to buy, what they had in their head were comics.
Okay. I mean, I talked to a woman on the phone.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Wednesday or Thursday. And she wanted Marvel and DC comics for her, like,
yeah, okay, that's it. Oh, that's weird, because when she called and got Gina, she's like, yeah, I talked to you yesterday, so I assumed.
Nope, that was me.
So I guess you sound like Gina on the phone.
I
Good
guess.
job, Dal.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So then when she came in, she got me helping her, and basically what she wanted were the old value packs of comics.
Yeah.
I'm like, they don't make those.
The most disappointed she was in the phone call was at the end when she's like, so, and is there a thing that has Marvel and DC books in it together? And I'm like, there is not. Oh.
So
sorry.
It's a little frustrating to me to know that she was told that multiple times.
Those two companies
and
hate
then
each other.
kept telling me that's what she wanted, and me saying those don't exist.
Yeah.
You could maybe go to Walmart and find some packs of stuff, but it's not a thing that the publishers do.
No.
It's not a regular thing.
Yeah, it was like distributors that would do that, who would just have leftover books or buy them super cheap from stores. And like, because they're doing that now, there's, I think, a few like grab bag style things that are out where people are finding like, oh, this is a store exclusive variant.
Right, yeah. But it's not a regular industry-wide thing.
No.
So she wanted individual comics. So I'm like, here's the comics. Well, do you have a couple? I'm like, well, here's a graphic novel. Like, this book here collects these 3 there. Oh, but I wanted 3 comics. This is 3 comics.
Yep, all of it
it's
was
just
explained
in this
the
book.
phone.
Yeah,
literally all of that.
and it was eventually me just being like, all right, you look around. I'm going to walk away from you now.
Yep.
But, and I'm sorry. She's like, well, when I was a kid, I used to get, okay, they don't do that anymore. I'm sure there's plenty other things that they don't make.
It's 2021 and you need to deal with that.
Yeah. But it's disappointing to know that they were told multiple times and had to deal. It's just
by multiple people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Somebody came in looking for a TKO book I never heard of.
Okay.
And I looked it up, and it's because it was one of their one-shots.
Oh, sure.
Like, we don't stock the single-issue comics because there's just no shelf space and no lifespan for those.
Nope.
We can order it, though, because TKO has announced some new books that we'll be ordering from them, but they want to do it. Fine. But yeah, that's just like, I can't give you the experience of buying comics from your youth.
No.
I can give you the experience. And when she came to the counter, she's like, this store has made me feel so old. And I go, it shouldn't. This store is for the young at heart.
Yeah.
And she said, oh, okay. Like that actually resonated in some way.
We had a guy who came in earlier in the week who, long story short, was basically like, where are your vintage books? And then when I said that we didn't have vintage books, he also managed to somehow be horrified that we were charging $3.99 for comic books.
Yeah, we're charging that.
So it's like, what vintage books do you think you were going to find for less than $3.99? I mean, vintage books, almost by definition, are multiples of cover price.
Yep.
You weren't going to find like a 75-cent or 60-cent Marvel comic just because that's what your expectation was. Like, that's not real. But yeah, I mean, that's fairly common, I think, for every comic shop in America, is the person who wanders in who's like, well, when I was buying comics in the 1980s, like, you have not engaged with the industry in almost 40 years. Like, I don't know how to make that a thing that you can understand. Like, that should be a thing that you don't need to be told, but it's been 40 years since you've engaged with comics.
Yep.
Like, yes, they cost more. No, they don't look the same. Yes, the art's different. Like, in the same way that when you were buying comics in the 80s, they didn't look like they did from when they were in the 40s. Like,
right. Sure.
Yeah, man, the price went up from there, and they drew them differently, and there were less text pieces and whatever else. Like, yes, it evolved when you stopped paying attention. Okay.
Oh, what can you do except try to show them the benefits of reading comics now?
And deal with it on an almost weekly basis.
So Molly Jane's first week at the store coincided with, as you said, the first week where we were getting Marvel comics, not from Diamond, who we've gotten them from, since Challengers existed, and before that, well...
Since Heroes World went away.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to go back even further, but no, since Heroes World went away. People are calling this Heroes World 2, the sequel, but it's not. It's not.
Oh, man. I mean, the fact that everybody got... Well, not DCBS, certainly. Everybody got their order, and everybody got all of what they ordered makes it, I think, a leg up over Heroes World.
So, the Marvel books showed up on Monday, which is usually a day earlier.
Yeah.
I used to pick them up on Tuesdays.
Yeah, we would pick them up on Tuesdays, and I think even UPS Diamond orders show up for stores on Tuesdays, sometimes Wednesdays.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
No earlier than Tuesdays.
And one of the things that Penguin Random House has said in regards to their plan for shipping single-issue comics, because that's not a thing they did before.
Correct.
I'm going to back up and point out that we've been getting graphic novels from Penguin Random House for a while now.
About a year.
And their shipments are usually pretty bad. They throw a couple of sheets of bubble wrap in, but they don't have box spacers. They don't sort piles by size.
And the boxes themselves, the cardboard is incredibly thin, so they're frequently tearing apart, bending a whole lot. There's no, like, rigidity or stability to the box. And so books end up sort of flopping around wherever. And
I think that a large part of what we're going to be talking about is geographical distribution by UPS. But I'll come back to that later.
That's
so
fair.
PRH had said that they have a separate warehouse just processing the fulfillment and shipment of single-issue comics. Mm-hmm. Great. Single-issue comics will not be packed in boxes with graphic novels. Great. Less chance of damage. They're using single-stack boxes, and I think we've explained this before, but a normal box from Diamond has 2 boxes inside, a larger box outside, and each of those 2 boxes has a stack of books.
It has 2 stacks of books.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 2 stacks of books.
Yeah.
So
4 stacks inside a larger box.
4 stacks in 2 boxes in 1 box.
Right.
So 3 boxes, 4 stacks. PRH was taking each of those stacks and making it their own box.
Right. So instead of getting one giant Diamond box that had 2 boxes inside and 2 stacks inside each box. We were getting 4 individual Penguin Random House single stack boxes.
And they have really thick corrugated cardboard on the top and the bottom inside the boxes for support. Mm-hmm. Great. And they were developing their own boxes, not their normal boxes, thicker walled boxes to ship comics in.
Yeah, like we had been hearing that since this was announced like 6 months ago, Penguin Random House had talked about how their like fulfillment team was going to comic shops and looking at the boxes that are available and devising something that would fit the needs of the modern comic shop.
So I'm going to read a few things.
Okay.
All the research for this comes from Brian Hibbs.
Okay.
But these are things that Penguin Random House had told stores directly.
Yeah.
Will comic books be handled differently than graphic novels and other book product? Yes, because of the delicate and collectible nature of comics, we will be using our warehouse in Hampstead, Maryland to process comic book orders.
Which was, real quick, that's the brand new warehouse they built.
Yeah.
Like, they built a brand new warehouse specifically to distribute comics.
In order to minimize damages, comics will not ship with graphic novels or other book product. What if I receive product that is damaged or an incorrect quantity? Claims for damaged or defective product must be submitted within 10 calendar days of receipt of product. Claims can be processed on the selfserve.biz site and can also be placed via customer service. That's going to be important in a minute.
Yep.
But before we go any further, and also transcribed from a video that was sent out via Marvel.com. Again, thank you, Brian Hibbs.
Thank you, Hibbs.
We are also introducing new packaging for comics because we want to minimize damages to what we know is a collectible product for you guys. That said, damages can happen. We try to minimize them, and we do our absolute best to make sure that we can keep them very low, but we also understand they can happen. And when they do happen, we want you guys to know that we are dedicated to support this market at every level. Sales, customer service, shipping, etc. So when you guys encounter a damage, let us know. We have a process in place for how we can rectify this as efficiently and as smoothly as possible to minimize disruption for both you and your customers. So just contact us. We'll get it squared away. Take it away, Dal.
So we received the order at like 3:30 on Monday, and we were already kind of looking at the boxes going, because some stores had received them even earlier than that, and the reports were coming out, hey, the books are all going to be damaged. Basically, the problem is, and this is the same problem we've had with any number of shipping boxes for comics and graphic novels. The boxes themselves end up damaging the books because the corners of the boxes get dented by UPS. They're getting thrown around trucks and planes and boats and God knows what else. And they're also getting thrown around by people in warehouses as they move from one part of the process to the other. If a comic box with comics inside lands on the corner, you have now basically like dented/ruined every comic in the box. It's just going to go right up the side. So comic shops were opening these boxes and finding out, 40 copies of Excalibur are now like dented in the corner. And a dent in the corner for like a book, books are a little bit more resilient. It's maybe not a big deal. And the people who buy them, I don't know, are all the pages inside of it? Great. But like a comic book, we know a store that specifically like advertises like you can ask for and I guess pay more for perfect grade books when they go out. Like stores are expecting that a very large percentage of the books they receive are ready to go, are 9.4 and up books. That was not the case with the delivery from Penguin Random House this week. They were almost like every box was kind of not great, and every book was some level of I wish this looked better.
When you look at a box from any of the sub-distributors, and when I say sub-distributors, I mean, that's the wrong term to use, but for us, I mean...
A secondary distributor.
Hachette or PRH or Simon & Schuster.
Yeah.
The boxes always looked like they were slid across the floor on all sides.
Right. So one thing that I guess I want to point out, and it's a thing that hadn't really occurred to me at first, but it explains a lot. Our Diamond stuff, we go pick up at an expediter. Our Diamond stuff is generally, the boxes we pick up on Tuesdays is in great shape. The boxes themselves are in great shape. And the thing is, that's because they get to the expediters on a pallet.
Well, they're loaded into a truck on a pallet, all wrapped up.
Diamond in a warehouse. Packages the books in boxes, tapes the boxes up, puts the boxes directly on a pallet. The pallets get wrapped up. Those pallets go in a truck. The truck goes to the expediter. The expediter breaks the plastic wrap off and then takes the boxes off as necessary. We have seen at the expediters them physically go to a pallet, lift the whole pallet off, and drive the pallet to our car.
Yeah.
To then unload. So it never goes on a UPS truck. It does not get thrown around anywhere. So that's been a thing that I think we've always taken for granted, and it's why when we would get books on direct ship reorders where it would go through the UPS process, we would warn people, hey, if you need a better copy basically than what we have currently on the shelves, I cannot guarantee you that we're going to get a better copy if we direct ship it, which is how reorders show up, because it's going to go through all these extra steps where there can be extra damages. And unfortunately, that's what we have to do with Penguin Random House, because they are not going to, as far as we know, an expediter that we can interact with. Like, they go on a UPS truck and UPS drops them off. And the boxes themselves are nowhere near resilient enough to withstand being shipped. That's kind of the problem. And that's why, when we had heard, Penguin Random House is aware of it, it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, they can't pack them any better because the boxes themselves are what's damaging the books.
So, a quick footnote.
Mm-hmm.
The people that got their books through Diamond, books are fine.
Yeah, I would expect that.
Because they were palleted from PRH,
sent
to Diamond, palleted out again.
Right. So there you go.
But I mean, there's got to be people, there's a lot of people who get their Diamond books via UPS. There's only 5 hubs across the country where people pick up, so, I don't know. But what I was saying before, I think that the busier urban centers or the higher population where, our UPS drivers are overworked, underpaid, always stressed out.
The trucks are overloaded.
And they're just trying to get things as fast as possible. So they're not paid to take care with everything they get.
And I like our UPS guy, but we'll look out the window and see him unloading his van, and it's literally just like, I'm tossing this onto a cart. Like, literally tossing it.
Yeah, not placing, tossing.
Yeah, he's not carrying it and gently putting it down. He's tossing it because it's a box.
Well, I mean, first he's got to toss it to the front of the truck, and then, so, and I would do it the exact same way. I would not do that any differently.
And most of these, it's because, what's inside the box, theoretically, is like wrapped and secured or whatever. The problem with these books is that there is nothing essentially securing the books inside the box. The books themselves are directly touching all the corners of the box. So when the box gets manhandled, you're manhandling the books. A lot of stores will complain about various aspects of Lunar's business, but when you look at Lunar shipping, it is almost white glove. It is ridiculous how much effort Lunar puts into making sure the books that go out arrive in stores in the best condition possible. A Lunar box is the books themselves are in, again, kind of double pile boxes. Those boxes are like bubble wrapped, and then those bubble wrap boxes are put inside another box that has the corners are taken care of or whatever.
Also, they use a much thicker cardboard than Diamond does.
Much thicker, much thicker than Diamond, and Diamond's is much thicker than Penguin Random House's. So that's kind of why when you ever complain to Lunar about hey, these were damaged, they kind of are skeptical, because it's they know what they go to, the steps they go to to make sure these things show up pristine. So when you're they didn't, they're there's no way, which is not a thing that stores sometimes like to hear. But yeah, I mean, Lunar's books show up pristine. I can think of, on a given week, there's maybe 1 to 3 books that are damaged to a point where we're we don't want to put this on the shelves. And we are pretty thorough with how we inspect the DC books. With these Penguin Random House books, we reported them as damages, but at a certain point we're if we don't sell these, we have nothing to sell for the week. People can say, no, I don't want this, or they can look at the shelf and go, I don't want to buy this copy. But if we're going to outright say, I'm not even going to shelve these, there'd be no Marvel books for this week. You would not even get the choice. So it's let's give people the choice. Let's at least put them out, and people can then, be the judge if they want.
So 2 things. Mm-hmm. One, PRH said repeatedly in those statements I read before that they know these are collectibles, and that basically that comic buyers expect them to be in excellent shape.
Yeah.
And 2, reporting damages is a breeze.
Yeah, so here's what reporting damages was like. We've reported damages and shortages through the Penguin Random House self-serve biz site for a while. It's a very nice site. Ever since they upgraded it, it's great. It's really easy to deal with, and they've been making really useful editions on an almost weekly basis.
Every once in a while, we'll get an order where I'll try to report damages, and they're like, that's too many, you have to call this in.
Yeah, which, that was the case immediately with this. As soon as I was like, oh, here's how many copies of Excalibur got damaged, they were like, you got to call somebody. You could not even proceed in the process. The other part was, if any of your incentive variants were damaged, you have to call them in, or you have to email somebody. You cannot automatically report any incentive variants. Like, there's not even a field for it. Which was kind of a pain because, of course, we had multiple incentive variants that were damaged. And those are the ones where it's like,
you can't. We are incredibly lenient with what we allow on our shelves, especially now that we're still in the grips of a pandemic and all the issues in the supply chain. Mm-hmm. We will put out books that we know are damaged just because we figure there's no real other way. We're not going to get replacements. Yeah. Not in a timely fashion.
And the replacements could be just as damaged.
Right.
That was, as a quick sidebar, that was a thing that was the closest I got to kind of losing my patience with Molly Jane this week was how fastidious she was about condition for all received books. And we basically had to keep telling her, this is what it is from these other distributors. Yeah. Like, if you're used to only dealing with Diamond, like, get used to the idea that every Hachette book that shows up is going to not be perfect. They're sellable. They've definitely reached a point where they're sellable. They weren't before. But, like, yeah, like, we got 3 graphic novels in from Penguin Random House for this week's Marvel delivery. It was 3 copies of Runaways, volume whatever. All of them were screwed up. They weren't even in those boxes. They were shipped separately in mailers, and they were all screwed up.
You know, it's funny you say that, because I thought you were talking about today. Because we got in more of next week's Marvel graphic novels.
Yeah.
And Gina is as diligent in this as Molly Jane. She's like, here's all the damages. And I'm like, great. Those are not damages. We'll take them.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, but look at this. I'm like, I see what you're saying.
You're not wrong.
We don't have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, especially because, you know, even with Diamond, if you report a damage or you don't want to sell a book until you get a better copy in, it could be 3 weeks. It ain't going to show up tomorrow. They're not going to put them on a truck, even if they have them.
Another side note real quick is how often DC is now messing up the shipping of their variants. Like, we got a notification today. Oh, the 1 in 25 Nubia covers? You'll be getting those next week. People don't want incentive variants the week after the book is out. Yeah. Now, granted, that's everybody.
I'd rather them screw that up than keep screwing up the barcodes on which cover is which.
Yeah, that's true.
That is driving me crazy.
You guys keep making these mistakes, and I'm sure it's supply chain, whatever.
I'm sure it's supply chain.
So, anyway, going back to the PRH issues. Mm-hmm. So, not only do they say, hey, you have to call it in.
Yep.
B, the next day...
Or not call it in. Like, there's an email you need to send in, and it needs to, like, and this is, I guess, another part. You have to send in multiple amounts of documentation.
Yeah.
A list of every book, including its, like, UPC or ISBN.
Yeah.
Like, they'd asked for, I guess because it was the first week, photos. Like, if you have, books that were damaged, let us know the name of the person who packed the box, because there was a little sheet inside that said who it was. Give us a picture of the outside of the box. Give us a picture of the inside of the box.
Give us a picture of the comics.
Give us a picture of the damages. And a bunch of the stuff I just outright said, like, these came in an hour and a half before we closed, and it was the first week we were dealing with it. I did not save all that stuff.
No.
Like, I was lucky to be able to get it all unpacked before we left for the night. Next week, I'll be sure to take more photos.
But then they sent out an email to everybody basically saying, you're giant babies, these books are fine, suck it up. What it really said
Patrick is paraphrasing.
We are not accepting damage. The only way, what we consider damage if a book is unsellable.
Yep.
Like, torn in half, on fire.
If you're like, it's dented,
frozen in a block of ice.
And people aren't going to like the condition, not good enough.
Yeah. So basically, all of our damages wouldn't qualify as damages. These are books that people legitimately look at and go, I don't want to buy that. Mm-hmm. According to PRH, they're fine.
Yeah.
The company that told us they know that these are considered collectibles. No. Beat up books because
I guess when
the
stores,
book market.
Yeah, well, I guess when stores are saying, you can say that in like a theoretical sense, but then the week of release when 70% of your product is considered unsellable by your clients, maybe you start to change the definition of what's unsellable.
Yeah.
I will say this, and this isn't in defense of Penguin Random House, but just my own emotional state. I wish it didn't matter. I genuinely wish it didn't.
I agree.
Like, I hate looking at this stuff and going, This book is... I would gladly take this home and read this and never think about it again, but Jesus Christ, the stupid market means that, the corner's not great, it's not going to sell, maybe.
Do you know how often I take the damaged copy of a book?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to complain about it.
Who cares? The story's still in there, but it's like, that's not the market anymore. It has... Arguably, that's never been the market. It is a collector's market, and it always has been. I'm not a collector, but that doesn't change the reality of the market. Yeah.
So, it's not the end of the world, and we both 100%... I'm putting words in your mouth.
Thank you.
100% believe that this is going to get better, and quickly.
It can't get worse.
It can't get worse. They can't just become a pile of ash. They're already... Next week is the same. They've already... Because of how they start shipping things out.
They were packing stuff up the day that everyone was complaining.
But the week after, they're taking steps to fix it. And this is brand new. Sure, they had 6 months to start working on this. Yeah. But I honestly believe they'll get better. For everybody... Like, I've read of a store that immediately switched back to Diamond.
Okay.
Like,
I'm not doing it. I'm not losing that amount of stuff.
Imagine if you came into Challengers, our first day being open.
Uh-huh.
Look at what we are now.
Yeah. Carpet's way better.
First day we're open?
Yeah, it's true. Carpet's the same. Everything else is way better.
Yeah. It's night and day.
Yeah.
Nothing is the same.
Sure.
Not even us.
But, I mean, I sort of... I mean, that step
and we had decades of time to prepare.
That's true. That step of leaving Penguin Random House for Diamond, I mean, I wouldn't do it just because the financials don't make any sense. Our PRH discount is significantly better than Diamond. However, I will say two things. One, the fact that people can switch is the system working as intended. If you're unhappy, like, how many times have you been unhappy with a distributor? And it's like, well, what's the alternative? How many times have people been pissed off at Diamond? And it's like, there was nowhere to go. At least now, yeah, I mean, you lose money, but, like, if you really feel like Diamond's going to get you sellable product and Penguin Random House is not, switch. Also, I mean, yeah, Diamond does ship better. Like, that's a thing that, it's not theoretical anymore. Yeah. You know exactly what Penguin Random House ships like today. And, you know, if you're a store that had it way worse than we had it, or had customers that were way less forgiving than ours were, maybe you don't have a choice and you have to switch back. Because you can't go another week of your customer showing up and going, I'm not buying this stack of comics from you. Like, you got to do something. I get it. You got to solve that problem for them.
And our life would be so much easier had we stayed with Diamond in the short term, but way more expensive at the same time.
Yeah.
We've talked about how much of a discount percentage we would lose. We would lose 10.25%, which is exactly the sales tax in Chicago.
There you go.
Yeah. So it's not worth it.
No.
It's not worth it. We'll put up with this for
a couple weeks. Hopefully just a couple weeks.
But I mean, until, like, they'll get better.
And look,
they'll get better at this.
I mean, one more data point. There's a bunch of stores that got their PRH books this week and did not have any problems.
Yeah, that's true.
So who knows what next week is going to bring? Is it going to be as bad, worse, way better? I don't know.
Find out on Monday. If you want to pull out a map and gauge those stores, I think you'll find that it falls into the geographical criteria I was talking about earlier.
Sure.
But who knows? Like, maybe people have always said over the years, like, just, you know, slip your UPS guy $20 a month or whatever. Mm-hmm. And we can't, because we never get the same person and the turnover is super high.
I mean, we have been getting the same guy recently.
Yeah, but how many different UPS people have we had?
Oh, for sure. And it's going to, I mean, certainly the holiday season's coming up. Who knows who you're going to see when you're going to see
with me to the Expeditors to get this week's Diamond shipment just to show her the procedure.
Yeah. And
I joked to her that every time I get to know somebody there, they're gone.
Yeah, sure.
There was just like this week was somebody brand new, somebody I had never dealt with before, and it's ridiculous to me how often that happens. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if they're fired or move on or whatever, but it's like this job is constantly developing relationships with. I was going to say salespeople.
Sure.
Well, you know, like, and it's true. How many different sales reps have we had at companies? How many different customer service reps did we have at Diamond back when that was a thing?
Sure.
And I would always go out of my way to have a relationship with them.
A rapport. Yeah.
Just to make my job easier and hopefully theirs. Mm-hmm. And then they move on.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where it's like, it's not worth it anymore. And it really isn't. It's like, yeah, do I know the names of the people at the warehouse? No, because they're going to move on right away.
Sure.
That seemed like I was complaining a little bit too much. But It's just that
You missed the personal touch. I get it.
Once you, well, see, that's the thing. I hate having to start over with people all the time. And
Sure.
honestly, with customer service reps at Diamond, it was always a way. There was this learning curve of let me explain to you how we do things, and you tell me what works best for you.
Right.
And it wasn't just me saying, this is how we do it. It's like, this is how you guys have taught me to do it over the years. And if you do something different, let me know so I'm not wasting your time and my time.
Right, for sure.
It's the time-honored thing of somebody that you're working with in a professional capacity via email asks you a question that is in the email chain. Or dealing with any attorney on a matter, it's not worth their time to scroll back. They just keep asking the same questions over and over again. Or your professional wrestling friends who keep saying, when are you open? Things like that. Things like that. But I fully expect the Penguin Random House experience to get better.
Sure. Once again, like their website, they've been adding a lot of functionality to the comic book market side of it
in a short period of time.
They're very responsive to criticisms, and like some of it's things where it's like, I wish this was a day one thing they had, but like they didn't think of it, and as soon as someone said you absolutely need to have this, they worked on it and they got it in there, and it works better now. That's great. Those are all positives. But yeah, sometimes, there's a little bit of turbulence, and yeah, it's going to be a couple weeks before they get a better solution than what they have now, and hopefully it will be, a perfect solution, and we won't ever have to worry about it again. And if it's not, I'm sure they'll keep working at it.
Yep. So we were talking about the Penguin Random House side of the Marvel process. Mm-hmm. Marvel announced something over a week ago that we would have talked about last week had we recorded, which we did not. And that was a change to their Final Order Cutoff procedure. And it was couched in the supply chain issues as the excuse.
Except also not.
Yeah.
Good,
but
good excuse, though.
It's pretty much the same thing DC has always been doing, except not announcing it. Mm-hmm. Marvel has taken the 3-week final cutoff window and bumped it to 4 weeks. So we have to give them our final numbers for a book 4 weeks before that book hits a shelf. Uh-huh. That guarantees we have no sales data for the previous issue, which was basically the...
And that's if it's a monthly book, which a lot of these, not monthly anymore.
Yeah. The entire Final Order Cutoff system was put into effect after Brian Hibbs sued Marvel for always making these changes after we ordered.
Yeah, like you'd order a book because it was by this creative team, and then Marvel would change it. And it's like, well, I ordered based on this creative team A, and creative team B sells half as much for me, so now I'm going to have twice as many copies. It was just like, well...
Too bad. So the Final Order Cutoff procedure was implemented there. And basically they would ask for our final numbers before they had to give the numbers to the printer, so we could adjust up or down. And it's been a program for, I don't know, a long time. Decades? 20 years maybe?
Yeah, I mean 16, 17 years maybe?
Something like that.
I remember doing it for a chain where I would have to compile them for everybody, and I'd always have to yell at certain stores to be like, please fax me your FOC numbers so I can send these in because they have to go in tonight.
Yeah.
That was not fun. And
once DC left Diamond, and we were using Lunar to get their books, Lunar also had DC FOCs. Mm-hmm. And everybody on this podcast has heard me talk about how DC has kept stretching out that window so we're not getting enough time for sales data, which is exactly what Marvel's doing now.
Yep.
So, not to be trumped, DC has taken it a step further. And so I did the FOCs today, DC's FOCs for today.
Sure.
Now, this list I'm showing you now is not every single book coming out. It's only the ones I was checking sales numbers of.
Got it.
It doesn't count new number ones.
Okay.
Or specials or one-shots or whatever.
Sure.
Because there's no sales data for those. Yeah. I just have to look up subscribers and pre-orders and things like that.
Got it.
So every single book on this list either came out Wednesday,
which is 2 days ago.
Right. So that means we're putting in the final orders for Arkham City number 2, when number 1 came out Wednesday, so we've had 2 sales days.
Not even 2 full days.
Yeah.
Because you're doing it middle of the day on Friday, so you've really... No, I guess
I've had Wednesday and Thursday.
You had 2 full sales days, and then an
a
hour.
little bit. Yeah. So all of these already came out this week, or my favorite, I highlighted things, but I don't know if you can see in this low light, books where the previous issue hasn't come out. For example, I was doing the final numbers for Green Lantern 8. 7 is out next week.
Cool.
I was doing orders for Batman the Imposter number 2 and Nubia number 2.
Number 1s for both of those come out next week.
Number 1s aren't out yet.
Yeah.
So I have to give my orders for the second issue with 0 sales data at all for these series.
Yeah, I mean, and it's somewhat worse for Marvel because you've got stuff like Amazing Spider-Man where, like, we had to FOC the first 3 issues, I think, before the first chapter of Amazing Spider-Man Beyond came out.
Yeah.
So it was like, I went up high on 1, and then, like, I didn't go up as high on, chapter 2 and chapter 3 because I'm like, how long am I sticking my neck out for this for? Like...
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't,
too
I can't
long
afford
is the
to go
answer.
up that high.
For here for the rest of it, Green Lantern, Suicide Squad, and Titans Academy are books that we're ordering
2 issues ahead.
2 issues ahead.
Great.
Well, the thing is, in every instance of that, I order lower.
Sure.
I would rather have 0 on the shelf and be like, well, I didn't get stuck with it.
Oh, always, yeah.
And that is the worst thing for somebody who's coming in to buy a book. And it's like, oh, you don't have this book. And I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, yeah, well, our sales partner didn't give us enough data.
Don't be that store.
Right.
You do that on the podcast. You don't do that
right.
Someone walks in.
But, I mean, I just, like,
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating, and it's one of those things that we're looking at, and it's like, you can talk about the Penguin Random House shipping situation, and it's like, well, that's a problem that will get better. This stuff from Marvel and DC, it's like, no, this is just the new reality. It will only get worse from here over time. That's the arc of it. They're under no pressure whatsoever to make it better, to be more responsive. Like, when they were doing the supply chain thing, it's like, man, if you want to have your books come out every 5 weeks and then do FOCs every 4 weeks, fine.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand. Supply chain, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But when you're like, no, stuff's going to come out just as fast on schedule, we just want, like, we want more lead time. You don't get any more lead time. Like,
yeah,
okay.
You can only blame the supply chain when there's an actual slowdown in your releasing.
Yeah. That's not the case here. Like, say what you will about Bad Idea, and we have. But as they've needed to reschedule things, they've also said we're pushing back, like, when we an order cut off. Because the order themselves got pushed back.
Yeah.
So there's that.
They emailed everybody.
Yeah. Like,
by that I mean fans.
Like, I mean,
just right before we started recording, saying, "Hey, there's still supply chain issues. Here's what's happening."
Like, I mean, not to get off on a different topic, but you think about the What's the Furthest Place from Home #1 vinyl edition allocations, and that's a legit supply chain thing. They had to manufacture the vinyl well in advance. They picked a number. They picked about 5% of the number they should have picked, or what they could have produced. Maybe, I don't know. And as a result, heavily allocated. Most pre-orders are going to go unfulfilled.
I don't think you are putting enough emphasis on the word heavily.
Heavily. I mean, almost
massively
completely.
Allocated.
Yeah, I mean, stores are getting... we sent out an email to our subscribers, and we defined heavily allocated as stores are getting 1 to 5% of what they ordered.
Yeah.
But that's a legit supply chain problem. So I understand where the creators are coming from and where Image is coming from, and when they're able to say, we're going to rush out a second pressing, it's going to come out, 3 months after issue 1 comes out, but there will be no allocations, and they're doing it on a very quick turnaround. Like, they announced a second pressing, and the orders need to be in like 96 hours. Like, from announcement to the orders close, which, when you know your allocations at least, which as we do, we're able to sort of extrapolate out a number and go, okay, well, this is what we didn't get, so this is what we need to get, or this is what we think we can sell now.
But one of the reasons you sent that email was to get a gauge for how many people wouldn't want the second pressing. And to the best of my knowledge, we've gotten 1, maybe 2 replies.
One person's responded.
Yeah.
And that response was, I'm okay. I will take a regular copy of issue 1, but I'll try and get...
Which, great. Yeah. So we'll order less of the vinyl for that reason-ish. But nobody else has responded. It's like, this is not helping us.
But I take that to mean tacit approval. Like, basically, the email was to people who are getting allocated. Like, this is a situation. This is why it's happening. This is what we're doing about it. This is what Image is doing about it. And what we're doing about it is we're automatically placing people who are down for the first print who are not getting it down for the second print. And we're offering them the opportunity to, in place of or in addition to, get a non-vinyl copy of issue 1 on release day because those are not being allocated. We'll have plenty. And then also saying, like, this is maybe going to be a thing that's going to happen with subsequent vinyl editions. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
If I don't get a response, my assumption is everything's A-okay. They will wait for the second printing of issue 1, and they're okay with that. They're also, I haven't looked, but people can go through Pullbox. I know the one person who responded said, yeah, I went through Pullbox and I ordered the Scotty Young cover. Like, great. That's less work I got to do.
There you go. The supply chain problems aren't getting any easier. There was an article going around.
The article's everywhere now.
That the heading was, there is not enough paper in North America for comic books.
Yep.
And more publishers are being like, hey, this is going to be an issue.
Yeah, mostly because I think a lot of stores are doing more seasonal ordering. I mean, comic shops do in the sense of, like, maybe you stock up on certain graphic novels you're really going to push. But, you know, comics themselves are such a weekly thing that you're not as, you know, addicted to that sort of seasonal holiday halo effect or whatever.
Yeah.
But for stores that are, you definitely need your manufacturing partners to tell you right now, hey, do not plan on getting, like, a ton of restocks in December.
Yeah.
Like, if you think you're going to have a busy holiday season, order like that's happening right now. Because you're not going to get another shot at this. A lot of these things are going to run out. A lot of them we're just not going to be able to get to you. Like, I mean, certainly when you talk about the supply chain, you're also talking about, like, delivery and stuff. And that means, you know, if there's less trucks to go around, if there's less boats to fill up, if
less
it's
truck
harder
drivers
to
to go
unload
around.
things, less truck drivers, less, you know, and UPS trucks are overloaded, and
Did you see
USPS
that?
is running at a lower staffing, and all that, you know.
Did you see the photo of the harbor in California with all the boats? There's a lot of boats.
You know how much there usually is? One boat. There's usually one boat waiting to be unloaded. Now there's, like, I assume dozens.
Dozens.
Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So back in May, we were having issues finding adequate comic bags.
Mm-hmm.
And we found a source. And what we normally do with an untested product is order some, get it in, gauge the quality, and then if we like it, immediately order more. And that's what we did for the comic bags we got, and we were very happy with them.
Yeah.
That distributor is long out of stock.
Uh-huh.
And it became another drastic hunt because we're just about out of bags.
Yep.
So we found another source, and I just need to point out that each time we get bags, the price goes up, keeps going up, keeps going up, keeps going up.
Mm-hmm.
A year ago, our bags were like what, $5.99?
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe like $6.99.
No, $5.99.
I think they've been. Well, anyway, they're now up to $8.99.
Yeah.
And literally, we found a company. The bags are a little bit thinner, but we got them. We liked them. Like, great. Immediately, the day we got them,
Yeah, I thought they looked okay.
I doubled the order.
Yeah.
The price had already gone up.
Uh-huh.
And also, what I ordered, they didn't have in stock. They said, can we send you this as a replacement? Fine. Got the replacement, thought, these are great. I'll order more of those. Mm-hmm. Well, it turns out the bags they replaced them with were not the replacement they told me they were.
Okay.
Basically, the replacements were going to be resealable.
Okay.
The bags we got weren't resealable.
Nope.
But also, the coding, and I looked on it today, the coding, like the code number, whatever,
Sure.
stock number,
Yeah.
doesn't match what they said.
Okay.
So when I got the bill for the second one, I'm like, hey, this is $200 more than the order I just placed. And I think I sent you my reply.
You did.
But here's what I haven't been sending you.
Mm-hmm.
They've, like, somebody else has been emailing me saying, hey, we just need $22 more for shipping because, you know, whatever, things went up. I'm like, wait, but this guy said it was $192 more. This guy's saying it's only $22 more.
Yeah.
I'll go with this guy here.
Yes.
And then the other guy wrote back, he's like, hey, can you take a picture of the outside? And that's when I realized, oh, this isn't what they said they were going to send. So the order we just placed, I have no idea what we're going to get.
Okay, great. Fun stuff.
And even so, those bags are now $8.99 per 100.
Right.
And it's one of the things we've always wanted out of our supplies is consistency. So we know that, oh, these bags go with these boards, whatever.
Yeah, everything fits. Everything
Who
looks
knows what's going to happen? But
Interesting
there's no
times.
other choices, really.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is, you know, we're the first 5 or 6 sources we would go through are all out of stock. So
And
who's the 7th?
The only good thing is that we'd been talking with other stores. Well, we tried to talk with other stores about doing a massive shipment from China.
Uh-huh.
And in this market right now, by the time that order was placed to the time the order was shipped, the shipping would have doubled.
Yeah, we would,
and that would have added thousands of dollars. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a good thing we never did it.
So good.
Yeah, don't try to get supplies from the Asian market with today's shipping
unless
costs.
you own a shipping company.
Yeah.
If you do that, you might as well go ahead.
Sure. So yeah, it's a really weird time to be trying to source supplies. And it's always, like, we talk about this all the time, but the majority of people who are buying bags and boards from us don't listen to this.
No.
And it's just, they don't realize the effect it's having until it affects them, and then they don't understand why.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the amount of people who come in for, like, card supplies and stuff, and like, why don't you have penny sleeves? And it's like, no one in the world has penny sleeves right now.
And,
like, you can't get them anywhere.
And we won't have them until earliest July. Yeah, I started doing the thing that never works out is just putting the, please alert me when these are back in stock.
Yeah.
Kind of notes, and that never goes well.
Nope.
But we're at a point now with the store. Molly Jane is on board, and
I'm on my way out.
Fine.
Okay. No, I mean, that's an additional step.
Yeah. Okay. We've made so many changes over the past year. New product lines, new carpet, new banners, the second little golden book spinner rack.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but
the Coke cooler.
It's a large expense, and it's something we're trying to get to the store to a certain point, and it's there.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, there's a couple minor things that either we're waiting for.
Well, we need
to
tweak a lot of things inside,
but
everything
but
else...
That's a later, and that's a thing that either late 2021 or maybe early 2022.
Like, we're not at a point where we are adding new product lines. Like, we brought in canvas prints of old Marvel covers. Sold several of those today.
They're great.
Not great because now there's big gaps on the shelf.
No.
So, like, that was the last original thing. We started our own greeting cards. Fine. Great. Those are good. We doubled the number of actual posters we carry. You know, we doubled the little golden books. Yep. And those are things that we want to start. Like, we wanted to have that stuff ready for the holidays. Correct. Because we don't know when we can restock. But also, what we're at now is with the exception of the canvas prints, the stock levels we want to be at. You know, we've doubled how many little golden book titles we carry. Yep. You know, we've doubled the amount of carded posters we have. We don't have enough supplies. We can't get them.
Right. Manga.
But same thing.
Drives me crazy.
But
we could have, I mean, like the manga thing, I don't want to like get off on a rant or like, digress or anything. But the amount of money that we've lost this year that we could have made on manga because it's just been unavailable has been incredibly frustrating. Yeah. Like, and it sucks because like, there's even people who are coming in and it's going to be a real bad holiday season for this, where they're like, what series can I start a family member out on for manga? And it's like nothing because all the volume 1s are out of print. Yeah. Like, and you can't start with like 3. It's not going to make any sense. That's the worst gift to give is like, here's a new series to read and you're already 30% of the way in and you've missed the first 30%. Yep. So that sucks. And yeah, the amount of My Hero Academia and the amount of, One Punch Man and the amount of Death Note and the amount of like, it's even the stuff we've been getting in. I'm like, I'm just waiting for the point where Penguin Random House is like, oh, we're out of Akira Volume 1. And it's like, great.
We're out of Akira Volume 1.
Yeah, I just reordered 3 more copies, and it's... anyway.
One of them's already in special order book.
Great. That's why I ordered 3.
But I think that, we were both holding our breath waiting for Molly Jane to come on for so long that now that she's here and all the improvements have been done, I'm a little bit like, wait, what do we do now?
Yeah, I mean, we already started working on some of the stuff that you and I had talked about is like, when we have somebody else, we can finally start addressing these things we've sort of like swept
You want to know what I think is hilarious about that whole thing?
What's that?
When you're like, I don't know what I'm going to work on Thursday. And I said, why don't you do that? You're like, no, that's the thing I'm going to wait until we're all there for. And then you do it Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, we just had nothing else to do. Some of that was like...
It's just hilarious. I'm like, you should do that. You're like, no.
It was a good idea. Yeah,
you didn't give me credit.
No. The problem with like Thursdays and Mondays is a lot of it is like it depends on when the UPS order shows up.
Yeah.
Like if the UPS order shows up early, that's what you're working on. If it shows up late, what else are you working on? But it can't be anything crucial because what if the UPS order shows up early?
And literally, that is every weekday now we're getting deliveries.
Yeah. But I mean, the deliveries for those days are different. Like Thursdays are more like reorder oriented, so it's like
Sure, but the point is,
more stuff.
Like a day like today, we got stuff early. Great. Last Friday, we got it late.
Yeah.
Like if those are the like you're definitely going to be opening boxes and unpacking new or restock product every weekday, not Saturday, Sunday. And that wasn't the case before.
No.
Tuesdays, Wednesdays, that was it.
Yeah, that was it.
And because you can't structure your day, there are so many things that I do from home now that I'm used to doing from home that I don't even need to do from home anymore. That Molly Jane is around, I'll have time at the store.
Right.
It's like, nah, I just get used to it at home.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it's just like, because you can't, there was a point today where you needed help on something, and it's like, I'm in the middle of two other things, like, and then Gina would be like, hey, where can I? I'm like, Gina, I'm already doing two things, which is the wrong thing to do.
Sure.
But it was more jokingly frustrating than anything else. It's like, oh, let me stop and do this. And it's like, why is this a problem? Okay, let me do this. Oh, it causes this. Now I have, like, oh, God. So that is literally comics retail as a whole.
Yeah, but the good news is we do have an additional person now who can then, who knows how to unpack things and is learning how to log in orders. So it creates less, I've got to drop everything on a Monday to deal with this order. When it could be, I will keep doing what I'm doing and Molly Jane can do that, or vice versa.
That's the goal. That's the hope.
Yeah,
is
basically.
to have somebody else just to share the load.
True. The
store is at a point now where we want to keep it and keep it good.
Yeah, for sure. Like this was a thing that I think I was mentioning to Molly Jane earlier this week. We spent years changing things slightly here and there and sometimes in big ways. But we're at the point now where it's like we haven't made any major changes to like the layout because we like the layout.
Yeah.
We like where everything is and we don't feel like it needs to change just to change. If it's not going to improve, don't change it.
I keep saying sale shirts. The Keep Reading Comics shirts showed up today.
Yes.
And we're almost done sorting them out.
Oh, great.
But one of the things, like, we're both comic fans.
You and me, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we like a variety of different art and artists.
It's true.
And we've been fortunate enough in the last 13 and a half plus years to...
13 and a half plus. No more than approximately 2 comics a month.
To work with so many different artists on projects for the store.
Uh-huh.
Whether it be Andrea Bell doing our business cards, or Stephanie Mydad doing window graphics.
Sure. Elio.
Or, Elio for the pins. Mm-hmm. And all the artists that have done original window graphics for us, or bookmarks, or... we were doing the sale shirts by ourselves for a while, but then we started with Sean Dove, and then Ryan Brown, and then Mike Norton and Luke Smarto, and
Kayla.
And it just kept going. Don't forget Lisa and Isley, but we're not naming everybody.
Right.
But
I just wanted to name someone we weren't personally friends with.
Oh, sure. And like right now, we have 3 different people working on bookmarks. I think that the time frame for these is soon, later, and far away. Okay. But I mean, like,
we don't need three new designs at one time,
right? So that's why you got to plan these things.
Of
like, one of the people shops at the store.
That's great.
One of them we met through illustration thing in the city. One of them doesn't live in this country. We're fans of, reached out, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm busy now, but yeah, I'll do it eventually."
That's great.
Sure.
I don't even know 2 of these.
Things like that. We got some artist proofs for a thing that people will see by the end of this year.
Oh yeah.
This week.
That was fun.
You didn't respond to my text.
Because I didn't see it until too late, and then we were already talking about something else. I did like it. I did like the second part.
Right.
It was really nice. Yeah. Totally fictional, but fine.
Well, I was going to add a little asterisk about that. Literally, what I texted you
Sure.
being...
Yeah.
Like, we could still
good.
add that to
That's
it.
good.
Yeah.
That was a good joke.
And we already have next year's I Love You, But I've Chosen Comics sale shirt done.
Mm-hmm.
And we like using different people with different styles, and it's hard to narrow things down. It's also hard when you need to build in asking, waiting for a reply,
Right.
and then giving up, moving on to the next one,
Right.
kind of things.
Sure.
But, we've had everything from graphic designers to comic book artists to fine artists to storyboard artists. Like it's a vast palette of choices, and that is a thing that we never did at any other points in our retail career.
No.
And it's just so exciting. And specifically, I
It
brought
really
it
is.
up because of the stuff you got to see today.
Yeah, that was great.
And it's just exciting knowing that we get to do this regularly. And one of the things that's hardest is to slow down and just like you look at someone and go, I want to work with them. I want them to do something for us.
Or just, I mean, maybe in a broader sense, just appreciating the good fortune we have to kind of do what we do. Like, we complain a lot on this podcast, but, like, you made a championship belt.
Yeah.
That was a pretty cool thing you did.
I earned it.
You did. Yeah, I mean, you won it, technically,
Yeah.
yes.
I wanted a championship belt for a very long time, for over a decade now for the store.
Yeah.
And it was always too expensive or too hard to design.
And you were like, what federation is even going to recognize this? And then you looked at the example of absolute Ricky Starks, and you're like, he doesn't need a federation to legitimize his belt and his achievement. Anyone can have a belt.
Sure.
Sure.
And now we have one.
We do.
And when that photo was posted, I immediately got a text, not a message, a text from DWJ. Where did you get that?
Uh-huh. Turns out.
I feel like he's gunning for it.
Turns out you can potentially create your own belt if you really want one.
Yeah. The last two things I want to say is from this week, Dirtbag Rapture from Oni Press.
That was real good.
Really good.
Real good.
Really good book.
Probably going to order a bunch more if it's still in stock at that.
I think it will be. I
hope
loved
so.
it, and I think that
Yeah,
the trade will move.
It was one that I think was... the solicitation did not break through to me at all.
Yeah.
Like, it was one that I took home Tuesday night because I'm like, it's a number one. I always want to read number ones because sometimes you find something really good, a real hidden gem. And this thing was just a great first issue. It's a story about basically a woman who can see and communicate with the dead, and the dead frequently want to go places, so she becomes kind of like a ferryman.
Yeah, she brings ghosts to their final resting place, but in the meantime, they live in an apartment building she's built in her mind.
Yeah, and this is like basically like her curse, and also like it becomes her profession.
It's her job, but she hates her job.
Yeah, which is relatable. But it's a thing where there's the dirtbag rapture part of it is pretty like central because it's a character who is your narrator and your protagonist, but also realizes they're kind of terrible. They're kind of jerks about this whole situation.
And their situation makes them be more jerks, but they were a jerk already.
This isn't a calling. This is like a thing they can do that they wish they didn't have to do, but they can do it, so they might as well find a way to make a living doing it.
Yeah.
It was a really good first issue. I really dug it.
And then issue 2 of Last Flight Out.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
So good. First 3 are great.
Yeah, I haven't read
loved
3
it.
yet, but only first 2 single issues are out.
Yeah.
So those are books that I think people overlooked. Seriously, like everybody overlooked those 2 books.
Yeah, I mean, we jumped on Last Flight Out because I read the PDFs.
Right.
I upped it at FOC because I'm like, this is one. So I think we had a lot of people pick up issue 1 because they were like, what even is this? They hadn't heard about it, and we were pushing it. And, sometimes it's just noise. Like, if we're pushing, like, Inferno #1, it's like, people know what Inferno #1 is. We don't really...
Yeah, but still,
we're just making it, like, readily accessible. We're not promoting it. But Last Flight Out is a book like Six Sidekicks where it's like, what is this? And we get a chance to pitch it, and we get a chance to describe it.
Yeah,
we get a chance to
sadly,
promote it.
a book like Six Sidekicks doesn't sell anywhere near what Inferno sells.
No.
But it sells way more than it would have if we just put it on a shelf and never said a word.
Absolutely. Oh, my gosh. That book had a real uphill struggle. But yeah, I mean, certainly, bringing the creators in and selling a bunch of the first issue and really getting behind it, it landed us with a number for issues 4 and 5 where we're like, this is 10 times probably what we would have done if we had not done all that promotion.
Admittedly, there was a person who's like, this isn't for me, I didn't like it. And I like that because When everybody loves what you recommend, you're like, wait, something's got to be wrong here. It's like somebody's not telling the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had that
You
before.
keep talking about Ricky Starks, man.
He's so good. He's got a match tonight. The humor stuff specifically is where I think we get the most, like, you pitch it and people are like, that's not to my humor. Like, sci-fi, fantasy, horror.
Sure.
Like, that stuff tends to be a little bit more like, if you're into that genre, you're into the bigger popular stuff within that genre. You're not into, like, micro-genres of it. But humor, it's like, you know, there's... In our humor section, I would say half the books are things I would not personally find funny, even acknowledging that they are technically and literally humor. It's just not to my taste.
Yeah. Comics are great, though.
They are.
We went a little bit over, but just because I wanted to get that last part in.
That's good.
And talk about all the goodness and how exciting it is to see this stuff.
I'm okay with this thing running along.
And also, I think that our excitement for things that we're doing hopefully gets people excited to see what those things are.
I hope so.
Thanks for listening.
Hail Satan.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.